Hey y'all, Pete Kosman here with the Heart-Centered Selling Academy podcast. This is part two. As you know me, I usually end up having to start twice. But anyway, I'm here with one of my dear friends I just met recently here in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's Dr. Donna Marie Cozine, and she works with female educational leaders. So we're going to talk to her about her business, who she serves, how she does that, and possibly some needs that she has for her business. DMC, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Pete. I'm very excited to be with you and your followers.
Yes, and so we met at a clients and community or I guess it's our coaching group of how to really have more of an impact in our business, and just happened to sit together or sit next to each other and got to know each other a little bit better. And now she's in my group, the Heart Centered Selling Academy, and so I think that's really important working with female educational leaders because it's so that impacts so many generations beyond even ours, right? The education that is passed on, the types of information that we tell people, and how we form their thoughts and their thinking. So tell me what your passion is behind working with these people.
Yeah. So let me start by telling you why I do it. I had founded a charter school of the arts of my own. It was a K-6 school, and my children attended the school, and I convinced my husband it was a great idea, and I have an amazing husband. And one day when I was at the table with my face in my computer, typing, he said, "We didn't sign up for this." And I was like, "We didn't sign up for what? This credit card?" Like, I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, "No, the kids and I didn't sign up for this. We didn't sign up for you not being present. Your face is in the computer all the time. You're not available to us. You leave for work, you come home, and then you're just absent." And I thought, whoa, it was a proverbial slap upside my head because, my husband is my world and my children are my life. So I thought, okay, well, he just called me out. I need to make some changes. And I made some changes. And a few weeks later, I was get home and I was present and everything was great. And then I would go to bed with my computer and I would start all over again. And my husband said, "Babe, you've made some progress. You're more present for the kids, but now you don't have time for me." So I was like, okay. And that story is the story for most women in leadership. We all feel like we can't give 100%. We can't give everything to everybody, right? So either we're giving it all at work and our families aren't getting it all, or we're giving it all to our families and our work's not getting all, or that's how we perceive it. And our reality is very different from that of our male counterparts, to be honest with you. We often go home to a second full-time job, whether it's parenting our children or maintaining our homes, or even older women who are helping out their elderly parents. So it's a really great opportunity for me to help leaders, female leaders, realize you don't have to, first of all, you can't do it all. And there are ways to really change your work style and practices so that the people who deserve the best of you are getting it. Because the people who deserve the best of me were just getting the rest of me. So now I work with female educational leaders and sometimes their teams, and I'm just enjoying the work so very much.
Are you finding that these women, as they go through your training, are actually getting more done by doing less and being more prioritized on the important parts of their life?
Absolutely. Absolutely true. And, it's funny because I can work with anyone. Pete and I were just talking about this before. Like, I can work with any educator, I can work with any leader, but I choose to work with female educational leaders because in our conversations, in these affinity groups, we can have real, true conversations. So today I had my coaching group, and one of my women that I'm currently coaching said that she was sharing with her husband that she created this action plan. And she said to her husband, "And by the way, you're part of the action plan." He was like, "I am?" She said, "Yeah, I have to pick a date night to have with you once a week. And Donna Marie is going to check with me." And today she was checking in with me and she was out of town. And I said, "Wait a minute. Is your husband with you? Did you make it into a date night?" And she said, "We did. He just left." So, the ability for us to have those conversations, because our marriages are very important. Our parenting or grandparenting is extremely important. And what's happening is, you're absolutely right. It's prioritizing, it's boundaries, and it's not feeling like we can delegate. So those tend to be the big rocks that I move, or help women move in my work with them.
So I totally get that because I'm so passionate about everything that I do. I realized about a month ago that I was completely ignoring my husband. So I did that. I established a date night. And what was so funny to me was how important that was to him. And he hadn't told me that. And how he'll like he's very logical. So he's very much like more of the male brain. I'm probably a little more of the female brain. So he's very much like, okay, this is what we'll do. And he's all like, organizing it. It's just interesting watching that kind of blossom, and also watching the extra like layer to our relationship it started, and also the relief it gave my brain from being able to turn off from having to produce, right?
Yeah, it really changes everything, because when you can invest in the relationships that you absolutely love, it just changes your mindset. It changes what my friend Karen Laurie says, your heart set, just the whole feeling of being calm and present and aligned. And I think that the stress of leadership and the fact that we feel as women that we're pulled in these two directions constantly is what makes us have difficulties in our marriage, in our work, with our children. We miss another recital, or we miss another band concert or something like that. And it just weighs on us very heavily, because we feel as women, we have to be able to do it all. And, sometimes I was presenting recently to a group of superintendents, and one of the man was saying, well, when I interviewed for my superintendency, I told them I have a young family. Don't expect me to be available after 7 p.m. And I said, well, good for you. But I can tell you, as a woman, and I've been in this field for 29 years, almost 30 years, I would never say that as a woman. And he said, why? And I thought, well, number one, it's hard enough to get the job as a woman. And number two, I don't want them now to see me as, oh, I'm hiring a woman who has a family, and now her family is going to come first. Like, things that men can say in our industry, women cannot, because we still have in our society, because we're human beings, these implicit biases against women, different non-white people, or the LGBTQ community. We have these implicit biases, and people don't even realize that they're thinking these things, and they just happen.
Yeah, have you seen that famous meme that shows like a dad working or doing something with their child and then it shows a mom doing something with the child, and like these are the same thing.
Right.
It's not the dad being extra special, it's the dad doing his job.
Right. Right. I remember someone saying to me, oh, I have to babysit my kids. It was a man. I said, you mean parent?
Right, right.
Parenting. Yeah, but
So
they're just different sets of rules, unfortunately.
right. So as a female educational leader, does this person, do they sit down and like write out a priority list from top to bottom, or how does this work?
Yeah. So you want me to give away all my secrets, Pete? No, I'm just
Ooh, uh-oh. Open the lid.
Yeah. So actually, a lot of it is based on the first book that I wrote, which is So You Want to Be a Superintendent, Become the Leader That You're Meant to Be.
Hmm.
And I knew I was leaving as the superintendent of my organization. So I wrote a book, and I thought about what has helped me, right? How did I create this life that I love and that I always desired? So I put it down in this book, and I created a system called the Driver System for Leadership Development. So I take women through the system, through, they have a self-paced curriculum. And then each week we meet and we talk about things that were in the curriculum that week, or things that came up the previous week. For example, today we were talking about delegating, and how what isn't monitored isn't done, and how you need to monitor your people but not micromanage them. And we talked about situations that women were in, and I shared some tools and resources that I've used that now they are going to use to make things easier for them. But really, you hit it on the head, because we always say, women will say, there's just not enough time in the day. But the truth is, we all have the same number of hours. As I always use the Joanna Gaines, like, I've got the same number of hours as her, but how does she do it all? Right. And it comes down to priorities and using your resources. And sometimes your resources are people within your organization. And I truly believe that the most important job of a leader is to grow more leaders. So if you're doing everything and you're not growing people in your team, you're not doing your job as a leader, making your life a lot more difficult.
So it's about really letting things go and learning how to delegate and being okay with the outcome of those things. Is that part of it?
That's part of it, being okay with it, as long as you're monitoring it along the way, right? It's something, you don't just give something to someone and say have at it and you don't monitor it. You still need to make sure it's happening. So what I teach is, it's similar to what we teach, how we teach children in a classroom. It's like a gradual release of responsibility. For instance, I have a team member, Paige, you met her, she's amazing, and we're rolling her into client success specialist. So I'm doing a gradual release of responsibility. I'm sending the emails out that I've always sent, but now she'll know that she's the next one to send these things, so that she can see how I do it before she takes it over. And then she'll copy me when she does it the first couple times, so I could see it. So it's like hand over hand, and then you kind of let go and just monitor it and make sure that things are being done the way that is okay with you. It might not be the exact same way that you've done it, but as long as the quality is where you want the quality to be, then you have to just accept that it's okay.
And so, how, as a female leader, are you able to or embody that? Because I think that's probably really hard for a lot of women who feel like they're supposed to be in charge of everything, and if anything falls, the plate falls, it's their fault. So I mean, because that has to be a mindset, right?
Yeah, you're right. It is a bit of a mindset, but it's also knowing that you can't control everything. And
Mm.
that's hard for a lot of us in leadership, because we become leaders because we are type A personalities, right? I want to do this and do this, and we want to get things. I say that I get a lot of shit done. We get shit done, right? But the thing is, you're giving it to somebody else for them to do it, but you just, they're not raising your child for you, right? You're still going to check in on it. You're still going to make sure that it's being done properly. And it's also knowing that it does come back on you, that if isn't done well. So it's also about holding people accountable, which, men or women, it doesn't matter. We don't like having those tough conversations. We don't like to, if you were my assistant principal, I don't have to go to you and say to you, Pete, it's 3 weeks. You still haven't done this thing that I've asked you to do, right? So I teach techniques, and I have resources that, by using them, you don't have to be the nagger. It's just, here it is on black and white. We said we were going to do it. This is the date. You haven't done it. Now what? What's the reason? And you hold people accountable to that. And the accountability piece is huge, because if you don't hold people accountable, then you're just as guilty about something not being done to the level of quality that you want it to be completed.
So, okay, so now we have a situation where this leader, she's faced with a decision, right? Like you said, the child going to the recital, or a work emergency, or whatever it might be. So what is the thought process, or how does she make the decision of which one gets her time and how much time? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I love that question. And it really is a very individual thing, right? So for instance, I'll use myself as an example. I committed to my husband that I was not going to do work at home. Now, were there times I had to? Yes. And what I would say to him is, babe, I need 1 hour on Sunday. Is that okay with you? And he'd say, sure, no problem. I'll take the kids to the park. It wasn't a problem, because all the other days I was respecting that I was not going to bring work home. Or I got a phone call that the building had been broken into. And I was like, I know it's Sunday dinner, but I got to run over to the building. Of course you do. Of course, right? So it's about being true to your priorities, and knowing that there are certain things that have to trump it. So trump those priorities. So for me, it was always, even in the building, if I was in the middle of something, if it involved the police, the fire department, or an ambulance, I have to drop everything I'm doing and go deal with that, right? And it's kind of the same thing. You have to figure out what is it. But the problem is, Pete, when leaders, we tend to want to be involved in everything.
Hmm.
So when that happens, we become micromanagers, or we're not getting our own work done because we want to be involved in everything. So what we have to do is grow our teams so that we're calibrated. And I know, if Pete, you're my assistant principal, I know really well how you're going to handle a situation, because we've walked through it a couple of times, and I have to have confidence in that. And if you need me, you'll call me. You'll be like, DMC, could you come down? I have an irate parent. Sure, no problem. But I'm not going down all the time. So, it is about figuring out your priorities and also scheduling your priorities. One of the things that I tell women to do is, if you're saying your family is a priority and date night is a priority, you put it on your calendar. You're not going to miss a doctor's appointment. You won't miss an appointment to have dinner with your spouse or your partner. If you have a school trip that you want to go with your child on a school trip, put it on your calendar, block the time out so people know, oh, Donna Marie's not going to be in the office. She's on this field trip. So it's not about just saying that the things are your priorities, but planning your priorities as well, right? Because what do they say? What you say is one thing, but what you do is what you truly mean. I don't know. There's some famous quote for that I don't know what it is, but what you do speaks louder than what you say.
I love that. And you mentioned it was something I was going to ask you. Is there a moment where you do like this role playing with the team members so that everybody already has that mindset of what happens in these moments? So you don't have to like build the engine as you're driving.
That's really great. When I was a lead, led my organizations, we always did a lot of calibrating. What would happen if, this happens, or let's walk through our procedures. So we would have procedures and policies for things. But if something happened that we weren't aware of, then we would sit down and we'd say, let's talk about what just happened. How could we have dealt with it differently? Is there something we could have done to, stop this from happening in the future? And there are times when the answer is yes, we could have done things differently. And there are times when it was like, no, this was just a freak thing. And I'll give you an example of a freak thing. There was a parent who was really angry with my director of intermediate education, and I heard her getting very angry. And I'm the type of leader where I intervened and I was like, this is not Mrs. Simpson's decision. This is my decision. And later in that day, I was leaving the building with my daughter, who was in the second grade, and we were holding hands, and this woman tried to run us over and yelled out her window, and and there were people there and they saw it. And a situation like that, like when we sat down, we went back over it, we're like, there's nothing we could have done differently. She was just crazy, right? Fortunately, no one was hurt and all of those things. But when something happens, like an irate parent comes to the building, why is that parent coming to the building? Well, their child was suspended and no one called them. Okay, well, then there was a mistake there. We need to do better. We need to figure out what it is. And the two biggest skills I think leaders should have, and I guess they're not really skills, they're more like character strengths, are grace, to give grace, and practice forgiveness, because we're all perfectly imperfect and we're going to make mistakes. The parents we serve are going to make mistakes. The leaders with whom we work are going to make mistakes, but we use those as opportunities to be better and not as opportunities to beat people up. Because if I make a mistake, I already know I made that mistake. I don't need Pete to tell me, you know what, you're the reason the parent got out of control is because you got out of control, right? I want to know, you know what, Donna Marie, you made a mistake. You got loud with that parent. How are we going to handle this in the future? Like, I know I did wrong. So let's just talk about how to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Now, so we're talking probably about a lot of people that are working in some type of city, state, county, whatever educational system where it's government led, which means that there's going to be people that you're working for, perhaps working with, or that are underneath you that you may not be able to do anything about, that are simply incompetent. So how does that female leader handle incompetence when she may not have full ability to discipline or whatever somebody there? Because we know how government structures are, right?
I think you always have the opportunity to, if the person works under you, you always have the opportunity to address it. It's when you're hired by somebody who's incompetent, which is the bigger problem, which is when, and these are conversations I have with women all the time, it's okay to move on, right? If you're in a situation where you're working for someone who is incompetent or is not supporting you, you don't owe them anything staying there. You can, I say you can take your bag of tricks and go home. You're highly qualified. You don't need to stay there. But really, it comes back to what I was talking about a little bit before, which is monitoring and holding people accountable. So if you notice, Pete, you're my assistant principal again, and you're not doing the things you say you're doing, then I need to address that. I need to put you on an improvement plan. I need to sit down with you. I need to make it official. And if there's no improvement, then I need to do what I need to do. The problem is in education, people very rarely get let go. It's almost, in some large districts, it's almost the dance of the lemons, right? If I could just get this teacher out of my school, he'll go to another school as long as he's not here. The problem is if he's not here and he's somewhere else, he's doing the same terrible things, not terrible, but like incompetent things in another place. So it's really about, again, holding people accountable, really being thoughtful about how you're going to support people. And you should always support them first. You don't drop the hammer, you support first. And then, when necessary, then have those conversations that you need to have.
Now I'm knowing right now that somebody's out there listening and they are a female educational leader and they're thinking, my gosh, somebody sees me, understands me, and maybe they can hold my hand through some of these things when I have to be the one that's always like in charge. So talk to me about how people find you, how you work with them, what that looks like, what the structure is, and maybe part of the journey that you take them on.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So, first of all, I have a Facebook group, which is absolutely free. And I give away so much great content, and I do lives every week based on what the people in the group are interested in. And we have 2,200 female educational leaders in that group. So it's a really great place also to network. And I just recently rebranded it. So let's see if I can remember the name. It's called Female Educational Leaders Mastering Work-Life Balance. So you could always join that group. Basically what I do is I listen. A woman will ask for a consultation. So you can find me on social media or through my website, which is consultdmc.com, or my email, which is dmc@consultdmc.com. And the first step is really just talking, and finding out what are their challenges, because I don't work with everyone and not everybody wants to work with me, right? If somebody's challenges are not in line with what I'm working with women on right now, then maybe I can refer them to someone else. And sometimes women just want to, hear the type of things that I offer. So I do work with women in a cohort coaching process, or, where we are together as a group. Involved in that are also some one-on-ones with me for goal setting and action planning. And it's just really an amazing experience. It's 10 weeks, sometimes 12. And then if they want to continue working with me after, I do have a second program for women who've been through the first driver's program method.
Gosh, that must be such a breath of fresh air, I can imagine, for these women that are in these powerful positions and really probably have a lot of passion, behind why they're actually doing it. So that's yay. I'm so glad that you're out there helping that, right? Do you have any final words for anybody that's listening about really anything on your mind, if you want to speak specifically to female educational leaders or everybody in general? Or
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that question. And, something that I'm just going to talk about it because I did it this morning. I've been reading a book that was recommended at our workshop that we were in by Dr. DeMartini. And I've always known about the power of being grateful. But really, when you're truly grateful and you wake up and start your day with gratitude and end your day with gratitude, it just makes a huge difference. When we can see even obstacles as opportunities, and to say, you know what, even though that child, cursed me out today, I'm really grateful for him because he taught me whatever it is. And I just think that if we all as human beings would focus more on being grateful, things really would change. And I say to people when I meet with them and we talk, I say, if you're going to look to find something wrong, you're going to find it, because there is no perfection. But if instead you look for the things that are right, you can see that they far outweigh the things that are wrong. And I think that just that little shift of focusing on the positive. Today, I was talking to somebody who said that they've decided that they don't want to be a principal anymore, and it was heartbreaking. And I said, why is that heartbreaking? And she said, because I worked so hard to be a principal. And I said, and you were for 6 years, and now you're done and you're going to move on to something else. And what a great opportunity. Like there are great opportunities that come from things that don't work out the way that we think they're supposed to, right? There's that joke, man makes plans and God laughs, right? So we have this road mapped out, but it's been mapped out for us somewhere by someone or some higher power. And we just have to go with it and realize that it's not a closed door, it's an open window.
Oh, I love that, DMC. That's so beautiful. Yay, gratitude. Let's do this.
Thank
Well,
you. And I'm grateful that you reached out, and I feel very honored that you had me on your show.
thank you, love. And so this has been the Heart Centered Selling Academy podcast. You can join, go to my page or go to my private group, The Selling Heart, to learn more about how, if you are a heart centered entrepreneur, how to actually close sales and run a successful business while keeping true to your own values. I appreciate y'all so much, and we'll see y'all soon.